Today, Southeast Asia is in crisis. The two neighbor nations of Thailand and Cambodia are trading heavy fire across their border zone in the second time that they've been at each other's throats just this very year. A fragile ceasefire, implemented with the help of Washington, D.C., now seems to have fallen apart, and both sides are speaking and acting as if they expect these battles to get a whole lot worse before they get better. Hundreds of thousands of civilians have fled the conflict zone. Both sides claim that the other side is to blame for the violence, and Thailand, the stronger of the two nations by far, has made it clear that it won't accept anything short of a total victory. When Thailand and Cambodia fought their first recent exchange in July of this year, that was already bad enough. But this time, both sides know precisely what they're getting into, both sides fully understand the balance of power, and neither of them are going to have an easy time backing down, no matter how much they'd like to. So, as bombs fall across Southeast Asia, we've got to ask a very important question. Can this be contained as a minor territorial dispute? Or are we looking at the world's newest all-out war? The prelude to war. All right, to understand the course of any conflict, we've got to understand why that conflict is happening, and in this case, that means we've got to turn back the clock. Thailand and Cambodia have a very long and troubled history, and they've shared a poorly defined, disputed border zone for more than a century. The border zone is very important to both nations, largely due to the high number of cultural and historic sites in the area. Conflict over the border zone is definitely not new for these nations. Between 2008 and 2011, Thailand and Cambodia engaged frequently in minor skirmishes, although back then both sides tended to try and demonstrate to each other that they didn't actually want to fight a larger-scale war. But both nations have undergone a transformation in the last few years, not because of any changing strategic situation, but because of the recent rise of nationalism on both sides. When we discuss nationalism in context to a conflict like this, we're focused less on a specific ideology than on the power of the movement itself. From a political standpoint, whether in Thailand, Cambodia, or anywhere else on Earth, nationalism tends to be a really potent driver of political movements. People tend to get pretty jazzed up about rooting for their own nation, regardless of the nation in question, and in Thailand and Cambodia, just like anywhere else, leaders who can build and capitalize on a nationalist movement will generally see their political fortunes improve. So, in this particular part of the world, Thai and Cambodian nationalist movements have each swelled in size and power over the last couple of decades, and they've largely defined themselves in opposition to each other. Cultural issues, international disputes, rhetorical differences, and above all, that disputed and culturally significant border zone have been very fruitful targets for political leaders in Bangkok and Phnom Penh alike. As with any good rivalry, there's been quite a bit of talk about how each nation could totally kick the other's ass in the event of war, and as nationalist movements have taken on a life of their own, it's become harder and harder for leaders to justify backing down from an avoidable fight. So, in the first half of 2025, when tensions in the border zone started to escalate, political leaders in both countries attempted to capitalize. When, in late May, the skirmish between Thai and Cambodian soldiers left a Cambodian dead, both nations' hardliners took the clash as a grave affront. Tensions kept rising, both sides blamed each other for the aggression, and in mid-June, Thailand's then Prime Minister was caught via leaked audio speaking very deferentially to Cambodia's Senate President and de facto leader, Hun Sen. That incensed lots of people in Thailand and emboldened lots of people in Cambodia, and pragmatic, realistic observers in both nations began to realize that things were getting out of hand. In reality, a confrontation between Thailand and Cambodia is not a fair fight. Thailand is a US ally with a relatively strong, relatively modern military on air, land, and sea, whereas Cambodia's military isn't just woefully unequipped, it's also quite corrupt and unprofessional. So, in a situation where cooler heads had prevailed, this would have been an ideal moment to de-escalate. But cooler heads were nowhere to be found. What followed were border closings, political upheaval, diplomatic breakdown, and finally several days of open hostilities in late July. Roughly 150,000 Thais and roughly 135,000 Cambodians were displaced because of the fighting, about 24 civilians were reported killed, and while the two nations acknowledged a combined 37 dead soldiers, the true death toll is likely to have been higher. Eventually, under pressure from Washington and a wide range of regional actors, the two sides agreed to a ceasefire in what the world had initially hoped would be the end of the conflict. But as we now know, the larger catastrophe was only just getting started. Round 2. So, regardless of the narratives being pushed by both sides, the outcome of the first exchange had been fairly clear. Although Cambodia could certainly damage Thailand, Thailand clearly had the upper hand to the extent that Cambodia would have been very foolish to avoid working out a ceasefire. But shortly after the fighting stopped, it became clear that the much larger forces that were driving the border clashes, that same intense nationalism on both sides, was going to continue pushing both the Thai and Cambodian governments toward future confrontation. That's not to say that either government was trying particularly hard to defuse their situation. Thai leaders, through their nation's clear superiority in battle, and Cambodian leaders, through their willingness to stand up for themselves, could each push a narrative of victory. Both sides felt they could avoid actually continuing the conflict, with Thai leaders showing no real appetite for conquest, and Cambodian leaders acting in a way that suggests they understood, at least privately, that continuing to welcome Thai military action would be a very bad idea. But if either side could use the conflict to levy more allegations, boost their own profiles, and gin up domestic support, then they were going to do precisely that. In the following months, Thailand repeatedly accused Cambodia of planting new landmines in the border region and otherwise violating the Anti-Landmine Ottawa Treaty that both nations are party to. Cambodia accused Thailand of planning new strikes and defensives. Thailand accused Cambodia of failing to recover the bodies of deceased soldiers, which now posed a health hazard, and Cambodia accused Thailand of putting up new barriers in what Cambodia claims as its territory. Thailand kept 18 Cambodian prisoners of war in custody, and more Thai soldiers were injured by landmines on multiple occasions. In mid-September, Cambodian civilians started to clash with Thai soldiers in the border region, with Cambodia claiming that its people were entirely within their right to protest alleged Thai ceasefire violations. In late October, the two nations signed a comprehensive US-brokered ceasefire deal in Kuala Lumpur, but barely 2 weeks later, after yet another landmine claimed the right foot of a Thai soldier, Thailand announced that it would suspend the ceasefire indefinitely. Over the course of a very tense November, both sides started moving assets toward the border zone, and in early December, as Thailand raised alarms that Cambodian assets were poised to strike civilian areas, fighting began again. Similar to the first round of violence this year, these clashes are mostly taking place in remote or isolated areas where reliable civilian reporting is scarce and where both Thailand and Cambodia have real incentives to inflate their victories, downplay their losses, and accuse each other of having instigated the fighting. But regardless of who attacked whom first, we know that clashes restarted on the 7th of December and escalated substantially on the following day. On the 8th, Thailand took credit for a series of airstrikes across the border region and accused Cambodia of launching rockets into civilian settled areas. On that day, Thai F-16s laid waste to Cambodian artillery, ground battles broke out in multiple provinces, and civilians began to evacuate urgently from the zone for the second time this year. Also, over the course of the day, Thailand gave Cambodia an ultimatum. Accept a ceasefire by mid-evening, or Thailand would remove its limitations on the use of force and leverage its full military strength against Cambodian positions. But whether Cambodia refused to accept those terms because of some military reality on the ground, or because it would have brought the wrath of its own hardliners upon itself if it had agreed to back down, the result was the same. Cambodia did not accept Thailand's ultimatum, and starting on Tuesday the 9th, the conflict began to expand. No end in sight. Now, as of the time of writing, in the early morning hours on Wednesday, December the 10th, local time in both Bangkok and Phnom Penh, the fighting between Thailand and Cambodia appears to be rising in intensity. On the 9th, Thailand stated that its tanks had fired upon a casino complex on the border region, which the Cambodian military had taken over as a military storage depot, while its F-16s and other fighters had carried out a series of strikes against what it claimed were strategic targets. Cambodia stated that, due to what it describes as Thai aggression, its own troops spent the day trying to defend the country. Thailand accused Cambodia of unleashing massive barrages of rockets and artillery and using small drones to drop explosives, similar to the tactics being used in Ukraine. The Thai Navy has indicated that it's operating in coastal regions, and civilians in Cambodia have indicated that shelling from across the border has been constant. As of now, Cambodia counts 9 civilians dead and 20 seriously injured since the start of this latest round of fighting, while Thailand claims that 4 of its soldiers have died and 20 people overall have been injured, both soldier and civilian. The international community has tried to push for an immediate peace, led by the United States, where the incumbent Trump administration is very interested in preserving a ceasefire it's touted for months as a diplomatic triumph. But now it appears that something has changed in Thailand, and it's going to be much harder to achieve a peace this time than it was before. In statements to the global press, Thai leaders have indicated that their goal is no longer to simply secure the disputed border zone, but to destroy Cambodia's ability to pose a threat to Thailand in the future. Cambodia has appealed to Thailand to engage in talks, but Thailand appears to be ignoring those overtures. Instead, as one high-level general told the nation on Monday, Thailand will now work to, quote, cripple Cambodia's military capability for a long time to come. Bangkok is signaling openly to the world that it's already issued a sweeping set of orders to its military and intends to see them through. Quoting the nation's prime minister, "We can't stop now. We've already given our commitment to the armed forces that they can fully carry out the planned operations." End quote. The full extent of those planned operations isn't yet clear, but Thailand's primary focus seems to be on attacking Cambodia's ability to wage current and future wars. That means attacking hardware, ammunitions depots, and most importantly, heavy military equipment like tanks, multiple rocket launchers, and artillery. For Thailand to have changed its strategic thinking so drastically compared to the two nations' earlier exchange gives a very troubling indicator about just where this conflict is headed. As we mentioned, Thailand versus Cambodia is not an equal fight. Thailand commands far greater military force to the extent that after the July exchange between the two nations, we at Warfronts took it upon ourselves to publish an explainer. Thailand could have destroyed Cambodia, here's why it didn't. But Thailand is indicating now its objective is to dismantle Cambodia's ability to fight in the future, similar to the way that, for example, the nation of Israel has discussed its offensives against Hamas and Hezbollah. But if that really is Thailand's objective, then, like Israel, it's likely to learn the hard way that a favorable military disparity doesn't lead to an easy victory. While Thai aircraft, tanks, and artillery are far better than Cambodia's and will be able to destroy Cambodian kit in head-to-head engagements, Cambodia is more